What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mick Thinks Tiny. My name is Mick. Minnesota is a state that I haven't mentioned yet, but it could have potential for those of you who are living in the Midwest or looking to move to the Midwest for your tiny house journey. So today I'm going to talk about tiny house communities in Minnesota. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and let's jump into it. Let's learn about tiny house community options in Minnesota. All right, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to talk about tiny house communities in Minnesota. Minnesota has a lot of pros going for it. Unfortunately, cost of living is not one of those. Minnesota's cost of living is actually $7,000 more than median family income for the United States as a whole, sitting at $87,000. Now, I was surprised by this. I thought that most of the Midwest was more on the affordable end. So if you're in Minnesota, make sure you drop a comment and let us know about cost of living. I would love to know what that looks like in your area if you live in the state. You've got Minneapolis, which is what I think most people probably think of when they think of Minnesota. You think of maybe the sports teams like the Minnesota Vikings. You've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, who went pretty far in the NBA playoffs. But you also have the Mall of America, which is the biggest mall in the United States. I've been there before. It's a really cool mall. You have one national park in the state of Minnesota. That's Voyageurs National Park, so that might be worth checking out. There's festivals, museums. Of course, there's outdoor activities as well, too. Now, the climate is one thing. The winters can be very, very cold, so that's something you'll have to keep in mind if you're not familiar with the area, and making sure that your tiny house builder keeps the climate in mind so that your home can withstand those harsh Minnesota winters. When it comes to the tiny house laws, they vary by county, just like they do in every other state in the United States. You can put it on a single family lot. It's got to be 400 square feet or less. The range for how tiny homes are defined and the square footage ranges from 500 all the way up to 2,000 square feet in the state of Minnesota. So you have to make sure that you reach out to counties and ask questions so that you know exactly where your limitations are for building your tiny home. ADUs are gaining popularity, but it's a bit split. So it's 800 square feet or less, or 75% of the primary dwelling. When you're looking at ADUs and how they're defined in Minnesota, there's a lot of different types. So there's detached and attached. They can be within the home, in the interior of the home, attached. It can be like above the garage conversion. So it's very intricate in terms of the definition. So you want to make sure that you look that up. But there is a bit of controversy in the state of Minnesota around ADUs because of the laws. So there was an article that recently came out where a family wanted to put some ADUs in their backyard to help with the housing issue, specifically around homelessness. And even though the Planning Commission approved it, the actual county denied it because people pushed back. So there's a lot of pushback, a lot of like, not in my backyard, people saying it would be an eyesore. So it's kind of split in terms of who's, what parts of the state are for ADUs versus against, and that would affect tiny homes as well too. So you want to make sure that you're choosing a county that has a more pro ADU or tiny home friendly climate. The only, Minnesota is also home to the Avivo Village, which is the first indoor tiny house community in their state. So this is what it looks like. This is specifically for people who are struggling or dealing with homelessness, chronic homelessness, or transitional housing. So they have indoor tiny houses, which I thought was really interesting. And they're helping people get jobs and, working on like different things they might be struggling with. So this is kind of one of a kind, and it's in the state of Minnesota. So that's a good thing. That speaks to some of the pros in terms of the tiny house climate. The Airbnb market in Minnesota is huge, apparently. This image that I'm showing you here shows you all the different tiny homes that are just on Lake Superior alone. They're pretty pricey. These are rates for, 5 nights or 7 nights. So you're going to pay like $2,000 or at least $1,000. But they've got some really unique tiny house Airbnbs in Minnesota, particularly on Lake Superior. So there are a lot of pros, and there are does seem to be like moving forward in terms of supporting ADUs and zoning laws and tiny houses in general. When it comes to tiny house communities, I think the main draw is obviously affordability, and then the amenities. I think the location can be a huge plus if you're close to the airport, if you're kind of on the line of rural and suburban, if that's something you like. The security factor as well too. If you don't want to live on a piece of land by yourself, you're surrounded by neighbors. Some tiny house communities are gated. And then you also have the flexibility of deciding whether or not you want to be there long term, or is something that you just want to try out. When we're looking at tiny house communities in Minnesota, there is one formal sort of like traditional tiny house community, and that is the Sanctuary Minnesota. This is what their website looks like. The Sanctuary Minnesota is a tiny house village that's located in Ogilvie, Minnesota, It's about 90 minutes from a Walmart, so it is pretty far out. So you are looking at something more like very rural in that sense, but it is tiny homes. You can bring your own. They have rentals. Their lot rent is very affordable at $350 to $450 a month with 6 months leases, which could be good for some of you that don't want to lock in a 12-month lease, especially if you're just trying out tiny house living. They've got event spaces, community spaces, and they are pet friendly, so Sanctuary, Minnesota might be worth checking out. Outside of Sanctuary, Minnesota, we're looking more at tiny house resorts. So you have Bending River Cove. This is what their website looks like. Bending River Cove is located in Lake City, Minnesota. It's about 90 minutes from a Walmart. So again, a little further out, but it's on Lake Pepin, which looks beautiful. So that's a huge plus. They've got tiny house rentals ranging from $95 to $250 a night. You can rent boats, kayaks, and they're dog friendly. So if you have cats, this is not the location for you, but they are dog friendly, so that's another potential bonus. Next up is Downtown Cottages. This is what their website looks like. Downtown Cottages is located in Rochester, Minnesota. It's 50 minutes from a Walmart, a little bit closer. 15 minutes from Rochester Airport, so you're very close to an international airport. They've got short-term tiny house rentals, renting for about $150 a night, Wi-Fi, internet. Their main selling point on their website is that it's a one-level design, so you don't have to worry about stairs or anything like that. And the tiny homes do seem to be really modern and well-designed, so that might be worth checking out for those of you who are in that Rochester area. The last option is the land option. I wanted to bring this up because similar to the video I did on Indiana, there are tons of options for buying land in Minnesota that are very affordable. So every one of these dots you see here represents the number of land that's currently available for sale. There's a couple that I wanted to specifically talk about for different reasons. So first up is this $24,000 piece of land. It's about an acre. It's in Warren Township, Minnesota. It's residential. It's a pretty good price for an acre relative to what you would pay in other places in the US, right? It's all relative. It does look like it already is gated, so it looks like it's already sort of set up, potentially be a tiny house community if you wanted, or just, you and your tiny house on your own. The other one I found is a little bit pricier, but I want to talk about it because it's a lot of land. And so it might be worth it to some of you who are looking to buy a lot more land. So you could get 61 acres, which is huge, for $225,000 in Wirt, Minnesota. And this already has a structure on it, so this is definitely an opportunity for you to create your own tiny house community. $225,000 could be a lot or a little depending on what you're used to in your current real estate market, but 61 acres is a lot no matter what the price is. So this could be a really cool option for those of you who are looking to create tiny house communities. The last one is very expensive, but it's also a ton of land, so I wanted to mention it. It's in Olivia, Minnesota, $1.6 million for 360 acres. I personally don't know how to wrap my mind around what 360 acres looks like, but that would be just an incredible opportunity for you if you have $1.6 million, which I know not everyone does, but if you do and you're watching, I would suggest you check out this land search website and see what kind of options are available for you in Minnesota. So, as always, it matters what's best for you. In this particular case, in the state of Minnesota, you're mostly dealing with buying the home and renting the land, or just buying the land outright and then figuring out what you want to do with it. In Minnesota, based on what I've found in this particular video, you've got 4 options. You could either try out Sanctuary, Minnesota, which is a traditional tiny house community, Bending River Cove, which is a resort, Downtown Cottages, which is short-term rentals, smaller, there's only a couple there, I think there's only 4, or the land DIY route, which I think could be a great option for those of you who are looking to go tiny and you want to own the land, which I know is something that a lot more of you are mentioning in the comments. But as always, I want to know what you think. Would you choose any of these options? Where's your threshold at when you're deciding between buying land or just renting the home? Like, is there a certain number in your mind where you're thinking, okay, if I could get land for 10 grand, I'm totally going to do it, but it can't be more than that? I'd love to hear from you guys. I appreciate you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to think tiny. I'll see you guys in the next one.